In this publisher interview, the Our Hometown team is joined by Emily Sachar, publisher and editor of the Red Hook Daily Catch based in New York's Hudson Valley. Emily was featured on NPR for her unique collaboration with a man named Pavel and his cat Dora, and in this interview gives some remarkable insights into the story.
Looking great. How are you? It's been over a year since we did this. So
it's real. I know. And, a funny thing was a few months ago, I sort of forgot that we did it. And somebody was sending me the link. They said, you should post this on your Wikipedia page or on your whatever page. And I was like, oh my God, I remember that interview. What I remember is I was late because I had gotten a manicure because, I'm obsessed with my nails. And I was late to the interview and I was so embarrassed.
I don't even remember that, honestly.
You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember you being late. But I mean, I went back and watched some of the interview. I mean, you were just so sweet about everything back then. And, it was still the honeymoon phase. So I just wanted to talk today right off the bat, like I said in the email, is let's start off and just see how things have gone. Like, have we lived up to your expectations? How has this year been for you? And, what can we do better? What has been good?
Yeah. Well, first of all, so is everybody who's on the call?
Yeah. So we've got the whole crew here, the whole support team pretty much, except Jack. He's, he's our phantom of the websites. Okay, so he works at night.
I know Vera and Terry. Who's the doggy?
Oh, that's Chris. So Chris is really focused on video production for us right now. So he's kind of like my producer sitting in today. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, nice to meet you, Chris. Hi, Terry. Hi, Vera. Hey, Jack. Hi. I get really choked up talking about this team because I have been extremely demanding of this team. I mean, probably, and I hope within my contractual rights and so forth.
Of course.
But I see now a lot more about how the team works. Vera as the front end.
Right.
There are very few questions Vera can't answer, but I think we've developed a really nice connectivity around what she can do for us and punting to Jack.
Right.
And so I've learned what Jack works on and the kinds of things that he tackles.
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, yesterday, let me back up. So we are planning to do a print vehicle, which is unheard of for a digital publication. And we can talk about that.
I'd love to. Yeah.
We're going to do a print election guide to try to drive traffic to the website and familiarize the ecosystem of Red Hook that is not yet connected to the Daily Catch and the second town that we've gone down to. And I'll talk about that in a different time.
Okay.
With what we're doing in the election. We have a very robust election package, and you can find it under our government and politics channel, election 2022. So in any event, I had this idea that we could track readers who come to us off the print and find out which stories they are coming to us via, right?
Right.
I sent a note about this,
I did see that.
Succinct note for me. It was pretty succinct about what I wanted. And Jack wrote me back, not only a detailed explanation, but he considered examples of how we would do this and how this would work.
Great.
And this is so typical of the service that I get from our hometown. So, and behind that service is a tremendous amount of knowledge. So I feel that there are very few questions that I will put to you to which I will get a response that will be inaccurate or incomplete. And that you see how compulsive I can be. That is really comforting for me because I never feel like, they didn't really run it down. I feel like they run down and he runs down every possibility. And he also, and I'll come back to Terry and Vera in a minute, but Jack also is very creative. So I might throw an idea out and I might say, let's do it this way. And he might say, actually, have you considered this? Right. And that's just, and a third thing about Jack is he's a gifted writer. I don't know, is he a poet or, an English major? But he has extremely good grammatical skills and ability to express his ideas. right? This is very unusual for a technical person. And I know he's not an engineer, but he really understands the capacities of the tool that he's working with.
That's right.
Yeah. So the experience is coupled with Vera, who I swear this woman never loses her temper, like ever. She has to be getting frustrated with me sometimes, but she just, again, the patience is just so appreciated. I'm in a patient gratitude space right now, but sometimes I'm really agitated and worked up because I have an idea or I've gotten a request from a reader and I just, you know what that's like.
I know.
She'll take, right? She'll take questions from readers, know, a reader who can't get logged in or keeps getting logged out. And I'm like, oh my God, no, I'm not dealing with this today. I punt it over to Vera and she figures it out, and she does it with so much grace to our readers. So that's kind of a top line. And then I can tell you, I don't work with Terry so much anymore, but I know she launched our baby and she got our baby. And she had a very funny line. She said something like, soon the confetti will start falling or stop falling, you know, meaning like everything will be falling into place and you won't be. I don't know if that was the exact metaphor, but it was something like that.
I love
so
it.
I can get into more details, Matt. Right?
Yeah.
I can get into even more details, but that's a top line.
That is a fantastic overview. And I just love it when I can talk to a customer that has like the same experience I do with my team, because it's like, in many ways, I'm like a customer and I'm throwing out requests like that all the time. And, you know, I totally can relate to everything that you said. So, yeah, I mean, that was incredibly helpful. What a great way to start this interview. What I thought we could do, just to kind of like high level it, you know, so we don't take up too much of your time, like really stay on course. Maybe for the next 15 minutes, we could talk about some specific things that we've done on the website. I know, you know, this animation, which is a little delayed because of the Zoom stream, but in real time, when you're looking at the website, it's perfect. We could talk about some of the newsletter stuff, but maybe keep that to like 15 minutes because I really want to get to Pavel's War and talking about this amazing story that I love this NPR interview. I've listened to it twice. It's beautiful. I mean, I've never heard such, I mean, of course I'm probably a little biased, right? But I mean, I was so engaged in this story, and to have you get this coverage, it's huge for just local media.
It is huge. It's huge. We're talking to a movie producer tomorrow. We're up to, we are. We're talking, probably nothing will come of it, but it's very flattering.
The fact that it's happening, that's the
really
level you're
something.
At. These conversations are happening.
We got, but we'll go into this in more detail if you want, but we're closing in on 2,500 subscribers. So, you know, where we were when we launched, we had, I think, 85 or something, or 300 or something, but we're just growing so fast. And we also generated, I think, about $1,500 in donations this week. So, and it's continuing to come in, you know, we're continuing to get that money.
So let me just pause you, stop right there and dig into this a little bit more, because this is perfect material for our publishers and our audience. So, you know, you launched as a digital only publication. You have a model. Let's just break it down. It's a registration wall. Is that correct? It's a free registration wall.
Yes. So we don't run. We're a 501c3 nonprofit charity. We are very restricted in the kind of advertising we can take. We do not have a paywall. We do have a registration wall.
Correct.
And the reason we do that is because we want to capture email addresses.
Right.
So that's the basic model that we're working with right now.
Right. And so in terms of gathering emails, so that's the 2,500 subscribers that you're referring to would be the emails that you've gathered.
That's right. And we care about emails for email addresses for a number of reasons. I mean, it's not just to market things to them. We also survey our audience. Right. So we're about to do an election survey on issues facing, national issues facing voters this election season. And we're going to be emailing it to our subscriber base. Right. We may actually, we're starting a membership campaign this fall. This is going to be something we've never done before. We're going to be asking our readers to join and to support us with memberships at three or four membership levels. Okay. And we may pull a CSV file of the email addresses, and we're probably going to move that promotional out of our hometown and move it over to MailChimp, or one of the companies that is specializing in this kind of targeted marketing that we want to be doing.
Sure. Right. Yep. I've used MailChimp. Definitely a lot of unique features there. So, and that's something that you can run, in parallel, or, just separately from the website. So totally.
Right.
Because those emails are now yours. I mean, they've subscribed to get emails from you from any source. So yeah, you can port those over. Cool.
Right.
Very cool. Anything else to say about the newsletters, how that's been going?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I think a really important point to talk about with the newsletters is the exercise that we went through with your engineering team to do some finessing to how the algorithm worked in pulling events into the newsletter.
Right.
And I am actually not remembering exactly what the pain point was there. Vera may remember what the engineering team did, or maybe you remember what they did.
Right. Well, the thing with events is it's just different. It's a custom post type. It's different than articles. So yeah, you were asking for something that really needed to be there, but it just wasn't by default, so maybe could we pull up the newsletter plugin and just look at maybe a template and see, because how are you running this right now, Emily? I'm not totally familiar. Is it totally automated, or
everything is automated? We can't function if we don't automate.
Right.
Everything has to be automated. So if I remember correctly, what was happening was the newsletter, or the newsletter itself, was populating with too many events because it was pulling like every event that we had for a given date. And we've been able to change some of what it's doing so that it doesn't, I'm talking not very intelligently. Maybe Vera can help us.
Yeah. Vera.
Do you remember, Vera, what we tried to accomplish that the engineers did for us?
Yeah, you had all of the events listed, and some were actually expired, or were going to be going live soon. So you wanted the most recent so people could plan out like day trips or their weekend and things. You wanted them to coordinate.
Oh, I remember now. Yeah, I remember. So what was happening was it was pulling, let's say it was Thursday.
Right.
It would be pulling events that had already expired on Tuesday and Wednesday because of the way the timing algorithm was working.
Right.
So now we've instructed it to pull events that are, I think, 36 hours forward. Right.
At least 36 hours.
At least, I think maybe it's 36, maybe it's 48 hours. So people can plan. So if on a Wednesday, they're getting events that start on Friday instead of events that start on Thursday. And on Tuesday, they get events that start on Thursday instead of on Wednesday, let's say.
Right.
Wasn't there also a problem with recurring events showing every single day?
Yes, and that, believe it or not, we have not completely fixed that, and we're actually going to be planning another round of. We haven't told you yet, but we are right now writing the functional spec for how I want to fix that. So what's happening now is the events. They're correct. You'll get a newsletter that will say, let's say today is Thursday. You'll get a newsletter with an event that actually is happening on Saturday. So that's correct. And it's in the right order. But the problem sometimes is that Saturday event may be part of a series.
Right.
And the series started in February. So the way the event reads on the readout in the newsletter is it says that it's from February or March or whatever, when actually it's still happening, but that's because it's an event that is every Saturday, right?
Right.
So we want to fix that so that it really looks like so this has been a pain point. This has been a pain point for us. This it's not a newsletter functionality. It has to do with the algorithm that's pulling those events. The newsletter itself is doing exactly what it's supposed to do for us.
Well, right. What you're doing and what you're experiencing is pushing the boundaries and some of the growing pains of these new use cases for digital only publications, because we don't really have people using the events as much as you are. So, this is what the whole company has been. In the 26 years, like I said in that email, everything that we have is because of publishers like you that come to us and say, like, I like most of what you have, but it just needs to be a little bit different over here. And if we could add this functionality, And so you've got this whole set of automated newsletters going out. I think most customers have one newsletter, and it's just for articles, so they're very rudimentary about it. If we could look at what you've done here, maybe inspire some people to make the most of this plugin.
So yeah, this plugin is so robust. And let me tell you a little bit about how we use the newsletters just in general.
Great.
So
yes.
we deploy a newsletter every single day at 7:00 in the evening. Right. And that is the same time that we deploy to social media as well. We can talk later about what we've done with social media, because you guys were automating it for us. We're now doing it by hand. We have a social media team, a team of one.
Got it.
We have a social media guy. But going back to the newsletter. So the newsletter, if there is a news story, and there pretty much is now every day, we're pretty much publishing every day, at least something once.
Right.
It will send out a newsletter and it will affiliate that that news story with the series of events, the next 20 events that are happening. If we don't have any news a given day, we don't get a newsletter out. Right. In other words, the newsletter is dependent on its release on there being at least one news article.
Makes sense.
So that's an interesting point. Okay. Now, you see at the top of this list, it says midday urgent newsletter, early day urgent newsletter.
Right.
Okay. And then we have our daily newsletter, which is number 4, the second from the bottom. Okay. So why do we have those other newsletters? Because Jack actually solved this problem for me. Occasionally we had news. This was on an election night, actually, and we couldn't hit the 7:00 news, the 7:00 newsletter release time, because it was an election. Right. So returns were coming in at 10:00 and 11:00 at night. But I really wanted to prove to my readers that they could get the newest information from us. Right. So we set up a new newsletter, which is the early day urgent. And that newsletter, I forget when it goes out, but I think it's like no later than 9 in.m, right? So if I've published something at midnight, we get it out. But the reason we don't want it, we could have one every hour. Like we could, and I'm concerned that we may be moving in that direction where we would be releasing things more than 3 times a day. We would be releasing. I see now that what's possible, we can have a newsletter every minute of the day if we wanted to.
Right.
But we're trying to be disciplined and look at what our readers' habits are.
That's smart.
That's an example of something Jack came up with. Yeah. He saw the problem and he said, this is what we should do to solve this.
Right. And so let's just break this down a little bit more. If we could look at these newsletters. So maybe look at the configure area. So I would guess that these are designed to pull in from a specific urgent category. Is that correct? You have to categorize.
So exactly. We built a category. That's Vera. Vera builds my categories. She tries to teach me to do it, and I never can quite figure it out.
Okay.
So she does it for me.
She's there to do it. No problem.
She's there for me. I'm learning what I'm able to do and whether it's worth it for me to really understand how it's working.
That's right. It's no joke.
It's just not worth it. So in any event,
you have to ask yourself.
Yeah. So she sets up these categories for me. And so we set up this category. So when I publish a story, I place it in the appropriate category. So if I know that it's 8:00 at night, I don't put it in the newsletter. Well, I may put it in the newsletter category. So then it might go out twice. It might go out once in the urgent newsletter category, whether it's midday or early newsletter. And then it will hit again. Sort of the end of the day newsletter, the 7:00 is kind of a roundup of everything we've published.
Right.
And most of the time for a feature story, I don't need it to be an urgent. But if we have, let's say, a death or a traffic accident, somebody was killed, we might push that out earlier. Or election results are a great example. Or if we have a really important news event in the town, very rare that happens. And I don't want to be bothering my readers all the time with urgent newsletters, but at least we have the capacity to do it.
Well, it's really smart that you're, not burning out your subscribers. You're looking at your metrics. Here we've got this template, which is really beautifully designed, nice and clean, just, 2 or 3 colors going on, your main logo colors, nice theme throughout. But just to unpack it again, you have an early newsletter that is only going to send if there is a new article published in that category. So it's just a nice little trap that's waiting there, and you can just feed it into the category, and you're done. And
Yeah.
then it goes out the next morning. Very cool.
That's
Okay.
a perfect description of it. It's a trap. It grabs, sort of reaches out and grabs the latest thing.
Right.
Yeah. And I want to say something. I appreciate that you said it's very clean. I had nothing to do with the design. Our hometown has designed everything.
Okay.
Our hometown design, I think they took my initial thing, were like, that looks very 1989. And they put up the color palette. The design was all done, I think, for free. I mean, it was part of my package when I signed up, right?
Yeah, when we set up
we did the logo.
Right. Yep.
We did the logo, but you guys have set up the color palette, and I love it. And we get a lot of positive feedback about the color palette, actually. So
great. Okay, well, that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, I think this is just a really noteworthy newsletter we should highlight because it, uses the same fonts, I think, from the homepage, so it really preserves that vibe, I guess, or the branding. Okay, so that's the newsletter stuff. Anything else you want to say about newsletters, or any other features that you'd like to discuss that have been helpful for you? Yeah.
Right. So also we're working right now. We have a student intern at Bard College who's working with analytics, because another pain point for us is really digging into all the available analytics. And Vera's trained me a couple times, and she's trained a couple of other people a couple times. That's another example of the service from our hometown, is the tremendous, tremendous patience in training people, and sometimes training us several times, and sending us little videos of how to do things, because this is a struggle as a publisher / editor. Now, I am no longer the publisher, and we can talk about that in a minute, how that happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I found a publisher. I'm still the founder and the CEO, so I still run the organization, right?
Nice.
But,
good for you. Yeah.
It's very tedious to sometimes do all of the things that I would like to do. So we've realized that it's better to get some specialists who can help us. So we have an intern who is working to understand what analytics we can and cannot pull from the newsletters.
Okay.
For example, I would like to know how many people come to, let's say, that first story you have there, NPR releases a podcast. I'd like to know how many people are coming to that story from the newsletters. We have a very high open rate on the newsletter, something that Vera helped us learn how to look for. So our open rates are about 42% across our newsletters, which is, I hope you can,
very good.
I hope you can prove me right.
Very
I believe
high.
those are the numbers. I think that's the number that she told me we have.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of this stuff, because we can show you, so here we go. Yeah. So would it
1.52%.
Wow. Yeah, that's excellent.
That's just huge. Right?
Yeah, very good. That's,
but I think our clicks are not great. So what it's telling me is people are looking at the first paragraph.
Right.
And they're maybe not clicking into our stories, but so then we think about, well, should the story paragraphs be 2 paragraphs instead of 1 paragraph? If people aren't going to read the stories, but they're going to use the headlines.
Right.
That's kind of my next level of inquiry. We're not at the point yet of actually digging into that.
Right.
But this was when we had 1,642 readers. So that's a long time ago.
Right. Well, there's some things I'd like to just throw out there right now, because have you thought about segmenting this audience a little bit into different lists where you could tag people that are consistently opening and or clicking on the newsletter, and then maybe, experiment with these different formats, these in-depth formats with that audience? Just an idea,
I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think you're raising for me that I don't understand enough about what's possible to understand about the newsletter.
Right. This is a
analytics.
The analytics and tagging individuals based on the analytics is a whole side of it that I'm really interested in, and I'm getting into, like, with my own newsletter. So let's just show it really quick. The retargeting. We can have a follow-up tutorial, like, proper training on this with your publisher if you want, but just to give you an idea what's possible, you go into the retargeting and you can retarget based on click or what they did in general. So who opened, who clicked on something, add them to this list. You see how it says those buttons, add to this list? We can create new lists. So right now, if you click the drop down, Vera, it's going to be a whole, how many lists do you have right now? We've probably got okay, you have 4 lists, but we could add like a, insider list or something, and just add the emails that are clicking or opening every week. And, then just, you would have this super engaged segment of your audience, and you know who those emails are.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you're mentioning this, because
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if our hometown has the tools instead of our needing to go to MailChimp.
Well, that's right. I mean, because this is something that I originally learned in MailChimp years ago, but and that's why we used it, but now we have it here. So yeah, those lists in MailChimp were always really useful, because you don't want to treat all these subscribers exactly the same at this point,
Right. Especially for a membership campaign. Like,
that's right.
Maybe we can pull, I don't know what the correct data is, but the frequent openers maybe are the people we go to for these $500 donations, right?
It's smart. Right. Exactly.
Or maybe we try targeting them. So the thing we need to think about is, can we make it look different? Can the membership campaign newsletter look different from our regular newsletters? They'd have our logo, but we'd want to pull it out with a different subject line. And
Oh yeah. It could be completely different. It's a completely different template. So you could have a different subject, different logo. Nothing would have to be the same, but
Okay, that's great to know. Who on your team would really help us dig into the details of that? Would that be?
Well, I mean, if you wanted to do it on a call, I would probably recommend Vera on a call. But if you just want to ask questions, through the ticket system, Jack will probably be the one writing the response. That's just kind of how it shakes out. But it's depends on which format you prefer, I would say.
Okay. No, that's great.
We could,
because I think this is where we are. The membership campaign and the using of these lists is going to become a really important part of sort of our year 2.
Right. Yeah, we should have a subscriber list in the newsletter for members, donations, emails that have donated. And so that would probably, where are you collecting the donations? Are they through a form on the website, or do you do it?
They're through I forget the name of it, Gravitas or Granitas.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. We call it Gravity.
Collect the donations. It runs through Stripe, your preferred provider. We then pay a fee to Stripe. And Jack got that all set up for us.
Okay, great. So once they donate, I mean, I feel like they should probably automatically go on this new list, but we could move it manually in bulk into one of these newsletter lists, and then you could start communicating with them like special messages.
Yeah, but I'm talking even about before we get to that point. I'm talking about using the list that you already have to do the campaign, to do the first phase of the campaign, instead of paying $39 a month when every dollar is precious.
Right. Yeah, I think you could, whatever you need to do with MailChimp, we should double check, tell me exactly what it is about MailChimp that attracts you to it. It sounds like it's the segmenting and some of the metrics that they have. But, if we could just go through each of the reasons that you're going over there and I'm sure that we have a solution in here. It's just,
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's really, I'm great. I knew that there were going to be things I would learn today.
Right.
And it's on me because I'm so busy putting out the editorial product that I need to really engage our publisher, Walter. And I sometimes feel guilty bringing these people into the conversation because I'm not wanting to just drive you crazy now that I know you have, 250 publishers. I have a lot of guilt about, Jack said that to me, like you're a high maintenance client. He didn't ever use those words, but I could sort of read between the lines. Like I ask a lot. So it's okay.
It's fine though. Look, we will do what we can, at no cost, but I mean, like, you are helping us cover a lot of these engineering costs, so that it's not like it's totally sustainable for us. That's the thing.
Good.
It is. Right. We're set up for this, and that's why we do, the whole custom development kind of process of, getting the spec and everything, because we want to make sure it's right the first time. But so don't ever feel guilty about it. Don't worry.
All right. Well, anyway, so newsletters are a really important thing for us. And we think that we're driving most of our traffic through the newsletters.
Right,
So
right.
That's based on the open rate. It's not really based on anything I've been able to discern from the data yet, but we're hoping that our gal will be able to do that.
Well, yeah. So the publisher intern, what was their name again?
Her name is Jane Sartwell.
Jane. Okay, got it. Yeah, we should, I don't know, has our team met with her and given her any training? Do you want us to set something like that up to go over this stuff with her and or you
Yeah,
on the call?
I think she has, but maybe, I don't know, Vera, has Jane been trained? I don't remember.
Have we had a
I haven't trained her yet. I could set something up whenever she's ready.
Okay, I'll let her know that she needs her Vera day.
Yeah, just send her an email, copy ops, and just then Vera will coordinate with her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean by it. I'll send it to ops, of course.
Cool. Yeah.
Vera is ops.
Yeah, right. Pretty much.
So
We're all,
so the newsletters have been essential.
Okay.
What other questions about newsletters do you have for me?
I think that's pretty much everything on newsletters. I mean, we could probably fit this into like a little teaser for like a tutorial, Chris, like, asking these questions and then showing exactly how these things are done with the segmenting. I think that's all that I had on that. I mean, could you we're running, we're right on schedule to probably switch to Pavel's War.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But let's switch to this story with NPR because I would just love to hear, I want to have at least a little time for this. I want to hear it straight from you. I think we've all listened to the podcast at this point. Really fascinating story. Can you just tell it to us again, just like you did on NPR?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. So as you know, the Red Hook Daily Catch serves 3 zip codes, right? We're very small. Our town has 9,900 residents. It's a rural community. It is not it's a middle class or upper middle class in some sections community. We're connected geographically to Bard College. Bard College sits inside the footprint of Red Hook. Right. In any event, when the Ukraine war broke out, I remembered that we had a data analyst in Ukraine. Now, what do I mean by we had a data analyst? So in December of 2021, I was seeking somebody who could analyze a lot of data, like 54,000 data fields for us, for a story that we were doing on land values in Red Hook and who owns most of the land in Red Hook, or what are the top 20 landholders was the final story.
Okay.
And I have some training in database analytics, so I had done some of the work myself, but I couldn't do all of it. I was running into some struggles understanding some of the data fields and blah, blah, blah. And I put an ad in the newspaper, though, looking for an editor to do traditional line editing. Just help me with stories. And he replied, and his reply said that he wanted to help me do stories on permits in Red Hook. He suggested we do a story on dog permits and the decline of dog permits.
Right.
And I was like, what? It seemed to me he had gotten inside of a database inside the town of Red Hook. So I was really interested because I had this project sitting off to the side about land values and I was struggling with it a bit. So I asked him if he could look at that data, and he did. And we published the story. And then literally like 6 weeks later, the Ukraine war breaks out.
Right.
And I thought, actually, my son-in-law, who's sitting in the room next to me, said, you've got that guy in Ukraine, right? You should see how he is doing. So I did. I saw how he was doing. And he wrote me back a pretty lengthy, interesting, I guess you'd call it like a diary entry.
Right.
And I said, this could be a story itself. And I asked him if he had any photographs, and he did. They weren't great. They were coming off like a 6-year-old phone. So the quality wasn't great.
Right.
But we published that. And I didn't promise anything to my readers. I just said, we've got this guy in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
We'll see where this goes. And then I asked him to do another story and another story and another story. And the language barriers have been really a struggle, really challenging. because he doesn't speak English.
And he doesn't
right?
doesn't he just talk into a phone for all his communication and then Google Translate it or something?
That's apparently what he does. That's something that
doesn't
NPR
even
found
type it.
out. So with
Yeah.
me, I think he actually also types it and then he puts it into Google Translate and it comes to me as a Word document. So I receive it and you think, oh, it's a Word doc. I'll just plug this into the paper, right? No. Because then, as any editor has, their questions, he'll write something that I don't understand at all. It's a function of both his lack of clarifying, even in his own language, and then the fact that we have a translation difficulty.
Sure.
So many of his reports go back and forth multiple times with questions. He then sends answers. But we are publishing, I think we've published like 48 stories now from him.
Wow.
So okay, I'll stop there and I can tell you, we can talk about the NPR piece when you're ready.
Right. Yeah. I think let's just a couple of things that you just said there. I mean, first of all, like it's such an interesting local story because he took this interest, he got access to this data, and now, you're just feeding him the information to process. So he's kind of just like this virtual data scientist for you. And I think in the NPR story, you mentioned some, pushback about like reporting on this, but to me, it's just like, it's so supremely hyper local. It's such it's like a sister city that you've almost developed a relationship over there. So
yes, that's exactly. I want to just comment on that for a minute because there has been pushback from some readers. I think it's easy for NPR to sensationalize that just a little bit, because it makes it part of the drama of the story. And it was really interesting. In fact, I'll tell you a little side story. So very soon after we started doing this series, and it became clear it would be a series, and we were still doing it almost every day. It was the beginning of the war. So it was maybe every day, every other day I was running something. I got an email from a reader and he said, the Daily Catch is amazing. Your local coverage is unbeatable. But why are you in Ukraine? Why exactly? I could read his voice.
And
I said, let's go to breakfast. Let's talk. So because I take every critic and I sit down with them. This is part of my special sauce, right?
That is a real skill. Yeah.
I don't let any criticism come across the transom and get and feel defensive about it. That would be the end of what I'm doing. Because the people who are critical often are the best and the closest readers.
Yes.
This is something I've learned, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They care.
So I sat down with Walter Mullen.
Walter
Mullen and I had a complete and total bonding, and he's now he's now our publisher.
Okay. Wow. No kidding.
So it turned out that I asked him, what's your background? He has extremely good skills in marketing. He's worked for Time Warner. He's worked for Verizon. He's got a lot of experience with what are called win-back campaigns. So I thought he would be perfect. And he went to school at Wharton, at the Wharton School at University of Pennsylvania. So he has really strong skills for what we need right now. So I just said to him, bear with me on the Ukraine thing. Just trust me that I'm doing the right thing here. I have an instinct that we are good on this. Okay. Can you just right now, don't read it. Just swipe. Don't read it. Just don't read the stories if you don't like them. No problem. Read the stories about Amtrak and the new train station and read the stories about the school board and just let the rest of it roll off.
Right.
Okay.
Be patient.
So there have been a couple of other readers, a couple out of a universe, but if you go back, and I'll have Vera probably do this soon for me or help me do this, the engagement, the reader engagement that we have generated from this series is unbelievable.
Okay.
We have 3 and 4 people on every story commenting, right? And it's not the same 3 or 4 people. It used to be Gene Golden and John Ferguson. These were the names that became familiar to me. But now it's people from everywhere, from Kansas, from Kentucky, Allison Castle, Agatha Basilar. Like, I don't know. These are people, some of them are local names, but when I first saw them here, I was like, who are these people? There's Jean. Jean is often there. And some have more. And so I started a new thing, which is Pavel Responds. So we got Pavel, thanks to Vera, we got Pavel access to the dashboard. I mean, I hope he's not going to penetrate your dashboard and do some data analytics on your customers. I wouldn't put it past him.
Right.
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 But yeah, so he now responds to every comment. So we have really,
very
it
cool.
is like it's become like a pen pal thing going on, right?
So yeah, and you're really using the comment section as it's supposed to be used. I mean, you're moderating it, you're on top of it, and so people are into it. I mean, people are really engaging because
they are.
I mean, I don't know what other publishers' experiences are with comments, but I just know oftentimes when I'm setting up a newspaper publisher, like a traditional print newspaper publisher, they don't really even want a comment section because it's just extra work. But for you've just stepped into this digital only role that the comments is like critical for you, it seems.
It's critical. In fact, I have a filter set up on my email because I get so many emails, and those go to the top of my email, and I respond to them immediately. In fact, I even now have gotten, it's a little bit compulsive. I respond to them in the middle of the night because I just now sit with my phone.
Right.
I have my phone with me at all times, and I can approve the comment on my phone.
You just do it right on the phone. Perfect.
Yeah,
do you do it through the email?
Right on the phone.
So let me ask you this. What is the user interface for you, just so our publishers can understand? You get an email from WordPress that says there's been a comment made, and you click on a link.
It goes to my email. It goes to my personal. I have 2 email accounts. I have my personal email and I have my daily catch email, but the personal one is the one I check. So it goes. I mean, I check both of them, but this is the one I sort of tuned into in the middle of the night. So it goes to my email, and then I open it and I scroll down. I read it to make sure there's no porn in it. I approve it, and then it's literally on the site. And people have commented to me. They're like, "What, are you up in the middle of the night?" Like, yeah, I am.
Here's one I thought that said 1:47 a.m. But anyway, that's really cool because what you're doing is taking what is working and what people like about, social media and everything that's so successful there and bringing it back to your own platform where, you're managing the whole thing. It's not just out there on Facebook where, there can be, there's censorship, there's, all kinds of things that you're just out of your control. Like this is your platform. So
and here's something, Matt, that Agatha wrote. She said, "So sweet. I love how this story keeps on evolving, like pen pals writing in public."
Right.
That's exactly. That's how people view it. It is. It's like these 2 pen pals. I mean, it's almost like a subtext of the story. So we've got the story itself and the photographs. And I learned how to make videos and audios. So we have those on the site as well. Okay. Jack was extremely helpful in getting that launched. So he told me how, we couldn't do it on our hometown, but we could host it on YouTube. And so I taught myself how to use this little program called WeVideo. And so I know now how to make little videos and so forth. Yeah. So, and then we have as a secondary sort of tranche of content is all the comments that are coming in, or like a whole other story plot line that's going on.
When you think about it, that's what so much of the world is now in terms of content is comments. So you're kind of missing out if you're a publisher and it's just like a one-way conversation, like this real-time feedback of getting your comment published on the local news website is very exciting for the user. It's it's modern because it's not just a letter to the editor that shows up a couple weeks later. It's right there, it's approved immediately. Very cool.
Exactly. And we also don't really have to shorten the letters because they're not going into print. So not that I don't want people writing at length, but if people do send in a longer letter, I don't sit there and think, oh my God, I have to cut this by 30% or 60% or 80%. I just run it. I'm actually just noticing here that I never noticed this, that the comments take photographs. So I'm going to try to get with Vera after this call and find out how to get Pavel's photograph in there.
Oh, definitely.
That would add a little touch of personality.
The little avatar. Is that something that the user can add, Vera, or is that something that we would need to add for each user? I think that the user can upload their own in their profile. Is that right? We'll have to look into this. I mean, maybe we don't have an answer for you right now, but
no. I didn't need for us to do it now.
No problem. I'm just curious.
I actually think it comes from social media. There's something that feeds that into.
Oh, so if it doesn't find something, it's just the blank, but maybe we can look into a
James
way to
was telling
force
me
it.
about it. We should probably get an answer from James sometime today.
Yeah, we'll check with James. That might be an engineering thing, but no, this is exactly what I want to get out of these interviews. It's so cool. We could just talk about the things you're doing and kind of branch off into like the
other
tech.
Little things.
Yeah,
so we haven't talked about NPR and how NPR found out about
it. Let's get to it. Let's get to the actual.
Let's just get to that.
Yeah.
So I was in where is Walmart? I was in Walmart's hometown.
Oh, Arkansas? There's somewhere.
Arkansas. I was in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Yeah.
I was in Bentonville, Arkansas at Crystal Bridges, which is an art museum. I'm also an art historian, so I have another life actually.
I do remember that.
Historian. And I still that's a very active part of my life as well. But anyway, I was there doing a tour of Crystal Bridges, and I got into the car and I got a phone call, and it had an NPR, identifier on it. So I took the call, and it was Gregory Warner calling me and saying that he wondered if I would be willing to release to him Pavel's contact information. I asked him how he'd heard about it, and he said a friend of his locally in Red Hook or near Red Hook had alerted him to this interesting project that we had going on, which that in itself is really interesting, like how he would have connected with this woman in Red Hook. It's just so random, right? Like what if she hadn't told him? But in any event, so I trusted him, and I said, no problem. And I said, the only thing is, if you do something, please make sure that you reference the Daily Catch. Well, I didn't realize this was in February. Very early March, like the war, right after the war started. I didn't realize that we would be talking about a podcast of 40 minutes in length that would be picked up by Edition and picked up by Up First, and that would involve 10 hours of interviews. I have spent 10 hours of interviews with them over three different meetings, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not to mention fact checking and so forth. So, and they did so many interesting things. So when he first came to me, I thought, I didn't know the podcast, Rough Translation. I thought they're going to do a little news thing, and they're going to interview Pavel. They're going to get some sound clips from him. They're going to do something with me, and that's going to be the end of it. But it just built into this mega project for them.
Production. Oh, yeah.
Right. Little thing. I don't think they envisioned where it was going to go. They kept changing the air date. They kept changing the scope of the project. They kept more time with me. Then things were happening to Pavel. Then photographs would come in that they were really like the one you have right now on the screen with the cat and the gun, which to me is the photo of the series. Like that to me is that encompasses everything that this series is about.
Yeah, totally. The cat story. Yeah.
Yeah. So who knew where this was going to go? But it ended up, as you heard from the podcast, a lot of people participated, including our own readers. So he decided that he wanted to, Gregory and Tessa, the producer for the podcast, wanted to have the readers of the Daily Catch who had commented in those comment fields read their comments aloud. So those are real voices. Those are not actors. The only actor in the whole podcast was they got a voice actor to
translate.
Well, no, just to read what Pavel had said in English.
Not even exactly.
What he had said, to read some of the columns aloud in the voice of a Ukrainian man, so it would just give it a little bit of personality, right?
It was just like just so well done. I love those episodes. I mean, they have like live audio from him and you and the listeners, but it's just like I feel like
the cat.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's such a media kind of experience, even though it's just audio. It's not just a straight interview. It's so complicated and interesting. So you said there was a couple of different versions released, like there was a 40-minute version and then some
so
abbreviations too.
The original podcast is on Rough Translation. And then Morning Edition, which is every day on NPR. Released a 7-minute version of it. It's not actually a version. They created another version for Morning Edition. A short version, which 7 minutes is still kind of long, but it's 7-minute take.
Story. Right. On the same story. Yeah.
And then Up First, which is their weekend news podcast. Very, very very large audience for that.
Right.
They picked up last weekend. So that's where so much of the traction came this past week, was from people who heard it on Up First last weekend. At least that's how they're identifying to me that they heard about it. So Up First just leveraged the Rough Translation podcast and published it out.
Right. Gotcha. Actually, maybe Vera, could you, while we're talking, bring up the stats? I'd love to see like what we saw last week and see what the lift was on Madamo. Do you use
I haven't even
Madamo
looked.
Okay, yeah, let's take a look.
I haven't even looked to see what kind of traffic we got.
Yeah, let's just see what the spike is. Yeah, it should be stats.ourhometown.com, I think. Yeah, like so like, but the NPR story, yeah, like this type of thing, we've seen other customers get, maybe you need the new ops password. We've seen other customers get national coverage there. Like we work with the Storm Lake Times. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're
I've heard of the
Iowa.
Storm Lake Times.
Yeah. We do their site.
They're the one that got the Pulitzer. They got the
Pulitzer, and they had a little documentary made about them. It's just like, it kind of reminds me of what may be unfolding for the Daily Catch here.
Oh my God. Well, they didn't have a little documentary. They had a major documentary.
They had a big, full feature documentary made.
That was so interesting. He's one of your clients?
Yeah, exactly.
You should be very proud of him. That's a wonderful story for commentary, right? So we're actually going to be entering. We're going to be entering ours for commentary into the Pulitzer as well. I don't think we'll get it. I mean, but wouldn't that be amazing if we got national recognition?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you definitely have set yourself up for it. So can we just maybe look at a graph, Vera, you think, an overview graph, or for like the last month? That's sometimes how I like to look at, let's go to visitors overview, and then Tuesday, August 9th, and then like look at a little bit longer period, probably, if we could step back, because this is just a daily. Let's do like the last, like a date range like that. That looks good.
She's so facile with it.
Right.
But you can see what's gone on in the last week.
Spike. Yeah, because you're very consistent where you were there. These are daily visits, and then you basically quadrupled on Thursday the 4th. So that all lines up pretty good. Yeah, so like hopefully, we can continue to develop this story. I don't know. Do you think NPR would do any kind of follow up, or I guess
it's funny. They are doing some kind of follow up. These data are so great. I wish I looked at this more often. I mean, even to see that we have 1,000 visits, that means half of our readers are visiting.
Right. So, well, that's your newsletter. Yeah. The 50%.
Is that right? I mean, am I right?
I mean, those were opens and not clicks. So it's got to be other sources too. Right. So, let me take that back.
That's amazing, because that means that I didn't know that half of our visitors were coming to the site every day.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the kind.
That's a wow.
And if we can find out who those emails are, who exactly those people are, not just half of the 2,500 subscribers, exactly who those emails are. Yeah. I think we could.
Right.
So beautiful. Okay. So you can also get it on the stat side, because they are logging in. We're tracking it. So we don't even have to necessarily go about it through the newsletter. You can get it either way. It looks like. So
we need to pull some data here.
Ops is up there, but right. Yeah, but you can see your top visitors.
T. Paoli, you see there, like the 6th, 7th one down. She's the producer for NPR.
There you go. Right.
So she's gonna fall off.
That'll be this week only, right? Until the next story's done. But then, do you recognize any of these emails? Because these,
I do. I recognize. I recognize most of them.
Right. So
most of those ones at top are people that are either regular readers or they're our own people, like Walter Mullen down below.
Right.
That's our publisher, right? But then once we go down further, I don't know the names, right? Well, Lee Kravitz is on our board, Barbara's on our board.
Gotcha. Right.
And we haven't talked about some of those things either, Matt, and I don't know that this is the right day to do it, but
sure.
I would love at some point to sort of, because this is part of, we've added a third leg to our mission. So our mission was initially to publish a newspaper for the town of Red Hook, a hyper-local, broad and deep in this town only, right?
Right.
A second leg of our mission is to train young journalists, right? And we are now adding
cool.
a third leg to our mission, which is to develop a model, a sustainable model, not just for ourselves, but for other organizations and other towns that want to bring in and add their own newspaper to their town.
Right.
It's not, people keep saying to me, don't you want to expand and go into other towns? No, I don't. I
live here. This is my town. Yeah. Right.
No, it's because what I want is to train and help leverage the model of what we've done, and help other people do it in their towns. It's not about me being the master of the universe. It's about you being the master of your universe. Right. And
Absolutely.
And how we did that, I'm trying to now sort of take steps back and explain to myself and take the time to discipline myself to think about what things I've done that have been right. So step one of right was publishing with Our Hometown. That is I'm serious. That's not an advertisement. That is true.
I believe you. Yeah.
That is a piece I never think about. Is there a problem with my platform? Is there a problem with reliability of the platform? Is there a problem getting answers when I want to do something? Are they nimble? Are they, reliable? No, those things are in place.
Right.
Then thinking about how to grow membership, how to think about a publisher. What can I do? How do I stay true to my role as the editor of this without getting distracted with a gazillion other pieces?
Right.
How to reach the community, how to talk to the community, adding features. These are the things that I think have made us successful and will, I hope, continue to help us to grow. At some point, we're going to saturate Red Hook, right? And then I'll have to think about what do we do? But I don't know that the answer is, then we go to another pair of zip codes.
Right.
I don't know. We have gone down to Rhinebeck. We did go down to Rhinebeck, and where I would say what we do is Rhinebeck light. We need another reporter. So we have one reporter. That's it.
Right.
So a big goal for me in the next year is to figure out how we can generate enough income, enough reliable, steady income, not just one-off income from NPR.
Right.
To support and sustain another reporter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what you're talking about here is trying to build a turnkey playbook that, we have a turnkey website solution, but you still gotta, know how to find the right publisher. And just in this conversation, we talked about a very specific strategy. Look at who your critics are and talk to them, engage with the audience, and you'll find the publisher. So, I mean, just this idea of cataloging everything that you've done is kind of what you're talking about. And it's funny, I'm going through a similar thing personally or like professionally right now, trying to catalog like everything in the company so that we understand who does what and where to go from here. But like it's so hard when you're just in the day-to-day to step back and say, what are all the things that we have done? I mean, you've done there's so much that has happened in a year.
Yeah. And also you're so busy trying to think about the next thing. Like right now we have November is general election time, and we're talking about a print product. Now I'm writing a grant to the American Press Institute to get a grant for that, because we found out, a week ago, there's a grant availability. We're working with the Institute for Nonprofit News on their News Match program, which I think you guys know about, right?
Right. Yep.
We are participating in a sustainability audit with a company or with an organization called Lion. Local independent online news publishers, and projects are tremendously demanding on my time. And then I'm also trying to keep a newspaper going every single day and being true to that obligation, which is my mission and my passion project in life. It's very layered, and it's much more layered than I expected when I came to you guys and said, could I just publish a story every couple of days?
Yeah, you almost came into it like with just a blog mentality, but then you realized to really do what you want, you need to bring a lot of people in. You need to find people that you can delegate to. And this whole print products direction, let's just talk about that, because the last question I had for you in that email was what's next for the Daily Catch, right? And you already mentioned several things, this whole new initiative, part of your mission to, there's training journalists, developing a sustainable model that can be replicated. But then just taking a digital product and turning it print. How are you approaching that?
Okay, so let's be clear. We are not taking a digital product and turning it print.
Sorry, expanding.
No, that's fine. That's terrifying. Like,
yeah,
no.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's really scary. But no, what we are going to try to do, I'd like to believe we can remain true to the digital model.
Right.
But what we would like to do
Digital
for the
first.
November election is create a print tool, a print vehicle, a newspaper. It's going to look something like this. I'll show you. It's going to look something like this. Is the Hudson River View.
Okay.
And it's a broadsheet, right? Probably ours is probably going to fold like this and open this way. And in the event, we're going to take, it's for the voters. It's going to be called a voter guide.
Right.
And it's going to have a combination of service copy, like how to register, where are your polling places, what are the hours of the polls, service copy. And we're going to wrap around it the results of a poll. But it's not a scientific poll. So maybe a questionnaire. I'm very careful to not use the wrong terminology. We're going to survey our readers. We're going to pull all those names, or, you actually use your names, I should say. We're going to create a survey tool on Google Forms, and we're going to submit a survey out to our readers on all kinds of election issues.
Right.
We hired a data analyst who's going to do crosstabs with the data. So we'll be able to tell you not just what percentage of people think gun control is an issue or what percentage of people think inflation is an issue, but we'll be able to parse the data by men who feel this way, women who feel that way, people of different ages and how they feel. And we're going to develop a whole series of charts and graphs.
Right.
That's going to be the centerfold of this newspaper.
Okay.
That's what I'm imagining. And this is called community listening, a term that I'm learning more and more about. What does it mean to listen to your community? And how do you go out and proactively listen to your community? So this tool, the survey tool, is going to be the vehicle we're going to use. And then we're going to wrap around that some of our stories that are relevant to the general election. And Jack and I are working on trying to figure out the best way of driving those print readers over to our Daily Catch website, not only to get them to register, but hopefully to become regular readers. So we're basically going to give them a taste of the Daily Catch in print, as well as some service copy, as well as some beautiful graphs and charts that would be much harder to view online. And that's going to be our product. This is the vision right now. I mean, we don't have it. It's not complete. I feel confident we'll be able to do it. But we're going in for a grant to fund the printing and the mailing. Because we have to use EDDM, Postal Service products to mail this out to our it's not just to our readers, you understand. We're going to go to every single household in Red Hook. With this product, 3,300 households or something like that, 3,600. And then if we have any money left over, we're going to send a bunch into Rhinebeck.
Okay. All right. I have a bunch of just kind of technical questions, I guess, and more like logistics. How are you doing the surveys? Are you using a specific program? Are you using we have polls on the site?
So we're going to use Google Forms. Google.com. I've already generated the survey.
So you email that to your
so we'll create we could do it that way, but maybe we should do it that way. But what we're planning to do is release a story and release it through you guys, through our regular newsletter will be an invitation to participate in the survey. So it'll be through a story. It'll be through story. I guess we could think about, and maybe that would be a wonderful thing to do, Matt, is doing a separate email just to our readers about this.
Well,
What do you think? What's your advice?
Maybe I'm not exactly getting the picture of the newsletter, but if the survey is just nested in the story, I would just pull it out into that one newsletter as a second button. So you would have the story and you could go read the story, or you could just go straight to the survey here. Just like highlight the survey.
So we could have a button that doesn't take people to the story, that takes people to the survey.
Yeah, they could go straight to the survey from the newsletter. Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Because then they have an option. Yeah.
Yeah, then it saves a click, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe the story, for whatever reason, to me, if it just seems like the survey is hidden behind that story, we would want to pull it forward a little bit. But
that's really
okay.
great. No,
okay,
that's
cool.
awesome. That's fantastic. Do you
Good.
think that we should also just email our entire list and just email them the survey directly with kind of a different look and feel?
Yeah, I mean, I would think you just definitely don't want it to get lost in just a normal looking newsletter. So I would include it personally. I would probably put it like as part of the story in that regular newsletter, and then a special newsletter where that's like the only button,
Okay, fantastic.
Like as a reminder kind of thing. Yeah,
I keep forgetting that you have that capacity. So that's amazing. Yep. We'll do that.
Yeah, definitely.
We have, I think, a couple of specialty newsletters that Jack came up with for me, but that's great. See, this is really helpful, this kind of conversation that we're having, because it's helping me problem solve some of my pain points.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just to rap about it, just to with no real agenda, we just came in and just started talking, and the important things are going to come to your mind. And it's really helpful for me too, to just hear this from you.
Yeah, maybe some other publishers would find this of interest, the idea of doing a product. And I don't know how many nonprofit publishers. Actually, the API grant is for profit and nonprofit publishers. So it's not just for nonprofits. We're also often looking at nonprofit opportunities, grants that are available to nonprofits. But this is actually available to everybody, to any press institution, and I think to print as well as to digital.
Right.
And they have a lot of money. They have a lot of money to spend, and they're spending it in the next 2 weeks. The grants are due next Wednesday. I'm delighted to share that out.
Yeah, this is something that Terry's really good about finding info on. So you call it the API grant.
I'll send you the information.
Oh, yeah. If you have any details on it, we'll throw it in our newsletter. I'll be glad to send it
to you.
Okay.
It's really great.
Get the word out. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, geez, I'm sorry. We're already gone over an hour, but if you don't mind, I just wanted to ask one more technical question on this product.
I'm delighted to give you whatever time you need.
Okay,
that's what I said to NPR.
Thank you.
I'm in the moment, whatever you want.
That's awesome. Well, I know you got to get, are you going to New York this afternoon still or no?
No, I'm actually not.
That's out.
I'm actually not.
Okay. I gotcha. Well, then.
The only thing I have is I have a 1-week-old grandchild here.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Are you serious?
Yeah, you want to know how crazy my life was? Last week, the NPR piece dropped while I was in the labor room with my daughter.
Oh, my God. Are you serious?
And my phone is just like, I wanted to take this piece of machinery and just like.
Right. It's just like everything all at once.
I can't even concentrate.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so exciting for you. Congratulations. Wonderful.
Thanks.
Now so the son-in-law's in the room there with the baby. Okay. Now I get the picture.
Well, I'm glad if you can't hear it because he's crying right now.
I can't. No, at all. Not
okay,
once.
Good.
So, but one thing that I was really interested in that you said about this print product, the special print product for the election, you're going to be driving traffic to the website. Is that, I didn't notice the tickets in the conversation you had with Jack on that. How are you planning to do that? Because I was thinking QR codes. Is that what he suggested? Or
I asked him about QR codes. And so initially my thought was we would have a QR code with every story and we'd try to figure out exactly, how many people were coming from each of our stories. Now I'm thinking, no, that's too complicated.
Yeah.
And I won't be able to look at the data. I know myself. I won't have the time to look at the data.
Right.
So instead, what I want to try to do, and I'm thinking about this now, is how do we use a QR code to drive people just to come and register, right? Just to capture their emails and just come and see what the daily catch is, right? And do I want to bring them into my homepage? Do I want to bring them into? So I'd love your ideas. What do you think? And what do you think about what we should try to do with this? What's our goal?
Yeah, right. Okay, so I guess I would want to get with my technical team because this is kind of pushing my knowledge a little bit. But what I'm imagining is a QR code that brings them in from the print edition, just a single QR code right on the homepage, because we just need to know if they learned about us from the print edition. We don't need to know exactly necessarily what stories they read in print necessarily. But what we could maybe find out is what they end up reading on the website, because we can track their whole journey through the website from the QR code entry to what stories they read. It's just a matter of getting it to you in a way that you can work with it. maybe some kind of automated report. But, I totally know where you're coming from. Going in and looking at stats when you're trying to produce content, looking at stats from stuff a week ago, sometimes it's like, I just don't have time for that. But
Yes.
we just need to make it actionable for you, I think, so that you can learn something from it. Yeah.
And don't you think that what I should be wanting to get from this is people to register for the site?
Yeah,
they're
definitely.
Like,
100%.
I like the Daily Catch. I want to know about the Daily Catch, and we will tell them what our value proposition is. You give us your name.
Right.
We give you a daily newsletter. You can get an obits newsletter. You can get an events newsletter, and you can get a movies newsletter. That's kind of, and a week in review newsletter. That's kind of our proposition for why you log in or why you join.
Right. I'll say this, I thought you were going to say that you were going to be tracking like QR codes from each article. And that's why I kind of went to describing, understanding the path. Since you just said that is 100% the number one priority, because you got to, you got this one shot, you're going to get this funding to, put on this big production of printing and sending to every house. We have to capture them for future engagement. It doesn't really matter that much what stories they looked at that day.
Exactly.
What matters is that we got their email. Yeah.
Right. And what API wants to know in the grant, and we want to set ourselves up for future success with the grant, is that we are doing some kind of analytical.
Right.
We have some kind of metric against success. Like, what is our metric for success here? And if I can't tell you, well, we got a bump in traffic. Oh, yeah. I'd like to know we got a bump in traffic, and this is exactly how many people came in specifically from this vehicle. Not they happen to hear about us that day at the grocery store. I need to be able to segment the people who come from that vehicle. So I think that's really all I need is just the QR code, put it in a couple places. We'll tell people why they should do it. We'll have a link also. But I mean, I guess some people will just go to the dailycatch.org. So we might want to do it in addition to a QR code. Our URL to get to the Daily Catch is the dailycatch.org/something.
Ooh, good point. Yeah, that's really thinking through.
Or maybe we temporarily say that our URL is the dailycatch.org/2. So we know.
Right. I know what you're saying. Yeah. Put something at the end there so that we can just track it, because otherwise it's just going to be, I forget what the term is on Matimo, but it's just direct traffic, I think is the term, when someone types in the exact URL and they just go to it. So yeah, the QR code and then a little sub page, or it's just a extension, to the URL. Those
I
two
was
things.
Imagining something else too.
Please.
You could actually duplicate the subscription page. You want to have your people who scan this QR code go to the subscription page, name something else like QR campaign, and you can track that on Matimo to see who's scanning and going to that page.
That would drill it down even more specific.
That's perfect, Vera. That's exactly the idea.
Right.
So I think there are two things. Like let's just think this through. Let's say that they come in and they have typed in dailycatch.org. How do we make sure that they get to that page if they've come from the print? So I guess, Vera, what you're in a way saying is see the Daily Catch by going to the subscribe page, right?
Right. And that's what I'm thinking. Like if you're going to do this vehicle for the election, put the QR there. And it'll take them right to the subscribe page. That way, you're getting the readership from that print. Or you could even name that page like print QR. So which vehicle this QR is going to appear at. And you can have different QRs and have it do the same thing, but name it different pages.
Excuse me 1 second.
Sure.
I just need a car. When you coming back? An hour. Just take my car. The key is in the car. I'm sorry.
No problem.
So Vera, are you going to be able to help me work through this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can even create a QR for you if you need me to.
Okay. Yeah. Jack was so funny. He's telling me how I can get 50 QR codes a month. I'm like, thank you, but no thank you.
But that's a lot of.
Let me just tell you something.
Sure.
A service that I've been thinking about that you guys could offer and I would pay for it.
Sure.
I might pay like $50 a month for this, $75 a month. I need to have a way of getting a report of key analytics without having to go to your site to find them. Because what I'm learning is the analytics are sitting in several places.
Yeah.
They're sitting on the dashboard. I have certain things. Then there's this other thing called stats.ourhometown.com.
Right.
It's too much. It's too much work. It's too much work. And my sense is that there's a tremendous amount of data that once I gave it to you, you could generate an automated report for me and just spit it out to me once a month. And I think it would be an incredibly powerful tool that you could sell to your other publishers.
Right. I mean, I think let's look at, I mean, it depends on what information you need, but let me just say this. We do have stats in a lot of different places. There's the dashboard and Matimo, which is stats.ourhometown. But those are actually the same stats, and it's just displayed in two places. So I would say, don't worry about that. What we can do, if you want a monthly report, just tell us what numbers you want. We can give you page views, unique visitors, most popular article. We can create an automated email that'll just go to you once a month or once a week, whatever you want, with just the data you want. So you don't have to log in anywhere, first of all. And you don't
Oh my God. I mean, I'm like, are you, I mean, there is a God. I'm like listening to thinking, there's a God.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Just tell us what you need.
And I'm willing to pay for it. I mean, I'm not.
It's already part of what you get. Yeah.
Okay. But I'm not asking for it to be free. I don't believe in asking things for free. I mean, we're very much a nonprofit. We are literally counting every nickel because we don't take advertising. But this has become just so essential to my understanding of what's going on. Absolutely. I'm going to think about, I will get with Walter and we'll try to come up with it. And maybe we can just do a few cracks at it.
Right.
And it would be, Vera, what are you thinking if you're listening to this?
I think that would be excellent, to come up with something, hash it out and come up with something that you can get. So that way you can report.
And then you can also
I think that's
be
essential.
Part of your sales. Yeah. Sorry. I thought you were done. Sorry.
Well, I think she was going to say, like, you can use this. I mean, because you're going to be the type of person that's going to actually use stats in a way that they're really meant to be. Like, you can use that to inform what stories to focus more on, what categories to write more stories for.
Right.
I mean, those types of things. Because
well, also I have a board of advisors, and I'd like to be able to give it to them instead of what I'm doing now is sometimes before the board meeting I'll spend 2 hours just trying to go through the stats, getting really frustrated because I don't think I don't understand what I'm looking at sometimes.
Right.
And I also don't know that I'm making the right conclusions. So I'm not asking you to make conclusions, but maybe there are, I don't know. And I think you could really, Matt, like when I was working with you originally to buy Our Hometown, I don't know if you remember how impulsive I was. I just, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Okay, fine. Here's the spreadsheet. Here's the 200 stories. I remember it was about 200 stories. Here it is, make it happen. And Terry worked magic, and the confetti was flying all over the place. And then we had a website, and then we had to sort through and But if you had told me that I was going to get an analytics report every month or every week where I could, I think it would have been even more potent as a value proposition for me.
Right.
So I never want to think just about myself. I want to think also about how we can leverage the work that you're doing for others, right?
Yeah. Right. No, I appreciate that. That's really cool. And I totally see that and everything you're saying, expanding this whole mission of your company. And this, what it just reminds me of, actually, what you're talking about is kind of like what Lion and INN do is like, I feel like Lion more so, they're really trying to give anyone the power to be, like a real publisher, like to just the pieces. I mean, that's my understanding from what I've seen from them. They kind of like explain, how do you start a business, just like in general, what are the basics you need to have a business? And then, how do you make that into a publishing business? It just sort of sounds like similar to their mission. So clearly.
Here's another thing another pain point we have right now, and maybe Terry and her newsletter can help me with this. We're trying to find libel, liability, and officers insurance. And we've had a really hard time figuring out how to even investigate this. Right. And I feel like your membership must know, like there must be some people who have this kind of insurance.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good question. That type of stuff, insurance, just bookkeeping, like how do you, just the most basic stuff beyond publishing, beyond just like the actual content production, which is what most people think about when starting a newspaper, like all of these other things you got to deal with. That's a good one. Maybe we can include something like a survey in the newsletter for this, Terry. Like maybe we could talk to Jack about it. Just some type of a survey for all of our publishers, like as a newspaper publisher, like what do you do for libel insurance? Basically, it's kind of a
Right.
very entry level question. I don't know anything about it, so
Yeah.
that would be
And
very
I also
helpful.
love what we've done today. Like I call this like a check-in. And I think the check-in is part of the package is
Yep.
I feel fortunate. I got my check-in because we had National Public Radio, right?
Right. We kind of did them together.
It's really nice to just sit down with you, Matt, and listen and come up with ideas together. And I mean,
Likewise,
Vera
Emily.
and Terry and Jack are always available.
Right.
But this is really special to sit down with you as the president of the company.
Awesome.
And it's just back and forth. Like it's really, really lovely.
Well, I mean, I really appreciate your time, Emily. It's special for me, for you to take the time out to just give us all this wonderful feedback and share a little bit in this, big national coverage that you're getting right now. And, we're going to try to maybe, what's the term? Just not dovetail, but just kind of ride the tailwinds of that a little bit. And we'll be boiling this video down. If it's okay, we'll send you what we get from this. We'd like to take some highlights and, kind of turn it into a couple different videos. One about, Pavlov. I'm really, when
Pavel.
I think about
it's
Pavel,
really hard. I know.
when I think about it too much.
Pavlov too.
Pavlov, yeah, right. It's because
Pavlov's dog.
It's
Pavel.
ingrained in my head. Pavel, right? Just
Pavel Kuya.
Right. Yeah. So just we'll take that video and kind of make it its own sort of series, and then some of these the testimonial feedback stuff we'll publish that on Our Hometown. But we're trying a fun little thing right now. Chris is helping me basically run this. We're starting our own little publication, so I'm getting experience being a publisher. It's called Today in News Tech. Well, I'll send you some info. Maybe you'd like to follow us because we talk about things like what you're doing. We talk about tech, but just innovative projects in digital media. So this will be a feature story on that channel and Our Hometown for our publishers there. So yeah.
And then a final thing I'm going to do. So you're asking about the future of Our Hometown.
Yeah.
Another nut we're going to try to crack in the next few weeks, and I imagine I'll be paying for this to your engineers. We want to change completely the look and feel of the events pages. Because my sense is we get a lot of traffic and there's tremendous interest in our events coverage. We get a lot of people calling us and asking us, and we get a lot of complaints about how difficult the user interface is on events.
Okay.
So we've been studying a lot of other news sites to see how they do events.
Right.
And we don't want to go to their publishers, but I do want our events page to just look a little more sleek and be a little more functional. So we're going to try to work on, and my events editor is working on it. I don't even mean to sound critical, but we're going to try to come up with maybe a different design and have you guys slice the HTML and just make it look good. Yeah. And if you like it, you can roll it out to other publishers, whatever, but it'll be a little more modern looking.
Oh, okay, great. That sounds good. Yeah. I look forward to, those examples, and if you wanted to have a meeting to talk through that, we can do that. But it seems like we get stuff done pretty much through email. But if you ever want to schedule something to hammer this out,
okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
No, I feel like I have never actually felt like I need to talk to Matt. Like I can't get what I need. I need to talk to Matt.
Right.
I don't ever feel that way. I never feel that way.
Perfect.
But on the other hand, it's really nice.
It is nice to chat.
Bounce ideas around because you kind of have this. You're seeing a lot, and anyway, and I just love chatting with you. I mean, you're lovely.
Likewise, Emily. Thank you so much. I was really looking forward to this.
I was too. I remember last year's interview, and I remember how I felt so motivated after I got off the call with you.
Oh, same here.
It's very, very nice for me to feel that way.
Yeah.
I really have felt that you guys are my partners. I I know we have a business relationship and I get a bill. I don't feel that way. I feel like I'm part of this family.
That's
it sounds
exactly
so crazy, but
hear.
that's how you talk to people, Matt. That is your charm. And that is why you're growing.
Thank you. Okay.
You convey a tremendous amount of concern.
Right.
And at the most granular level, like we're talking about how we're going to put a button on my newsletter so that I can get maximum traffic to my survey.
Right. Really? It works out because that stuff really fascinates me. These little details and just like seeing what works and how the world is changing all the time. And, you know, we're really on the forefront here. It's an exciting company to be a part of, and I really appreciate what you said, Emily. That's really sweet.
It's true. And then I read Terry's little article about us, and I felt so understood because she talked about how detail conscious we are, and I just thought, thank you, because I try to be. That's really part of who I am, and I just to have Terry or whoever wrote that. Was it you, Terry? I assume it was.
No, actually, I think that was Jack.
Most of that's our writer.
I just have to say, Emily.
Okay, see, I know he's your writer. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, I remember our very first call together and how you came to us with you were lost in another website. You were getting buried. And you had all this great content and you just wanted to kind of build your own neighborhood and reach people in your community. And you were just so energetic. And I'm sitting here looking at you now and it's like, my God, she still has that.
Got even more energy.
Oh, thank you.
Look how far you've come, and you're still willing to go. I mean, it's awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. That's so. I just love not so much the recognition, but the understanding. I mean, don't we in life? We just want to be understood.
Right.
And you know, I feel maybe that's what it is. I feel that our hometown really understands not just me, but understands my project and really understands what's special about my project or it's now our project, which is my community's project. My community, Red Hook, is such a part of what we're doing, has become that. And I feel like our hometown has been the perfect platform for what this newspaper is trying to become.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you're completely on the cutting edge. We're learning things from you all the time. You know, your model is going to be what fills in the news deserts that have sprung up over the years. So, let's keep this conversation going, Emily. I think we should definitely connect again before a year from now. Like, we'll definitely be in touch and keep this just kind of free form conversation going, because I got a lot out of this. And,
thank you. And if I can help you in any way, if you want me ever to talk to a publisher,
thank you.
I want to spread the gospel,
the good word.
The good word.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Emily. This was
all right.
Just
it was
a
great
pleasure.
to talk to you. Let me know when it's out, and I took down some of my to-dos. I'll be in touch with Vera about the API grant, and I will follow up on a couple other things as well.
We'll look forward to it. Thank you so much,
all right.
Emily.
Thanks to everybody. Nice to meet you, Chris. And bye, Terry and Vera. Bye.
Take care.
Thanks for watching this highly informative conversation. If you would like to check out the Daily Catch, visit thedailycatch.org. For more information on the Our Hometown newspaper platform, visit ourhometown.com. Plus follow, like, and subscribe across social media for the latest in digital publishing.